I watched a YouTube video where you were interviewed about 3 weeks after you'd started in your current position, and one of the things you were talking about was bringing a holistic approach to the CII and engagement with the wider society and members, which is absolutely what you're talking about now, and I couldn't agree more. And just going back to what we were saying earlier, the segmentation of the world into corporate life, personal life, childhood, adulthood, etc., doesn't really exist in anywhere other than our mind. And I think when you look at it in a more holistic way, that is the life journey and a cumulative effect of everything, it brings a much more person-centric approach, which I think is fabulous. On that note, you're talking about wanting to engage with niche areas within the industry and financial services as a whole. How is my question? How do you take from where you are now to the sort of engagement that you see in the GI sector? Obviously, marketing effort. What are you looking at doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing is you have to engage with those markets. I mean, I'll give you an example. So, we've always had some involvement with the mortgage advice area through, we have something called this is, we've always had, actually, we've had for a long time, the Society of Mortgage Professionals. But in a way, it's been slightly secondary to the work that we've been doing with the personal finance area and the financial planning area. But of course, what we've realized is that actually that mortgage space is a very important space in itself. If you think about people trying to gain a sort of a physical asset that is backing their, behind their life as well. And most people do want to have their own property or their own, house along the way. And that, funnily enough, because that's the area where, mortgage protection is still largely backed up by protection products as well. That's become an increasingly important area for people to realize that there are other ways of mitigating and managing risk in their life as well, which actually, they may never have really thought about, like, I don't know, like life insurance or other things like that. So that would be an example of somewhere where we were there, but we hadn't really focused on it, and that there is quite a bit of work going on there now. And protection is the same, because I suppose that sector of the market was going through a lot of change itself for the last 5 or 6 years probably, but now there are again people who do want to be identified with specializing in that what used to be the old assurance products, and then it all became very unfashionable and nobody wanted to talk about them like that. But now people are back saying, actually critical illness is really important, life insurance is really important, personal accident, all medical expenses, all of these areas which are more complicated and more long term, they are actually vital, because most people's level of financial resilience is pretty small. Some people may build up huge savings, but a lot of people actually need product help to address terrible situations that can occur. So, I suppose, and there's there's a real link there between the work we're doing with mortgage and the work we're doing with protection. And if you think about, we're terribly tribal as a sorry, I mustn't use that word. I'm told I should say communities. We're very community focused. Tribal is the word across this sector. So people have a tendency to say, oh well, I don't do that, I'm not involved in that. But actually, it is a continuum. So yes, general insurance over here, is looking at your assets and your person and and your wealth from a protection perspective, product perspective, and then the bit in the middle is kind of looking at your family and your your ability to kind of protect yourself and those around you. And then the personal finance area is then saying, right, so now that you've got that at least protected, how do you start building up some real assets, some real actual financial wealth? So in fact the whole thing is very connected. And if you look at both individuals and businesses, they actually have a life journey, both of them, and they're actually quite similar, because businesses are all about making up and breaking up, aren't they? In the same, as you know from your experience, and human beings are all about, being on your own, then being in relationships, then maybe parting with relationships, and then maybe being on your own again. It's a very similar journey that consumers go on, as well as SMEs and businesses.
Yeah, indeed, I totally agree. Some of the work I've been doing over the last week or so, which just highlights exactly what you're saying, is a lot of profiling of our market, and I've just been really surprised to see how many mergers of businesses there've been that bring together general insurance with wealth management, with mortgage broking, protection, etc. Because there's obviously such a client crossover and a need for the services to interrelate, which I think is I just think it's really interesting.